Hello and welcome back to the Azure DevOps course. In this lecture, we will explain the permissions and policies in the Azure Repos. So I will go to the repos and show the security section in the repos. We will click here in the above, then click on Manage Repositories. And here in the Security tab, we can apply the user permissions for all the repos. That is for all the repos. Or we can specify a permissions for a specific repo. But I will go with all the repos, security for all the repos. So now I will choose our custom security group, Azure DevOps course, and start giving it a permission. So I want the users in this custom security group to only have the permissions to contribute to the repo, so he can pull and push to the repo, and to contribute to pull requests, so he can approve and create pull requests. And I don't want the users in this group to have the permission to create a repo, so I'll give it deny, or delete anything, deleting or disable the repository. I will give it deny. Editing the policies, I don't want the users in this group to have a high permission to edit policies or delete anything, so I'll give deny. Force push, deny. Renaming the repository, deny. So he can only contribute to the repo and contribute to the pull requests. Also creating branches, I will make it deny. Okay, so now let's go to our user, Osama, that is in this security group, and try, for example, here to create a branch. For example, I will try to create a branch called STG. So it gave me permission denied because I disabled the permission to create a branch for this security group. So my user can't create branch. Also, I don't have the permission to rename the repo or delete it. I don't have any tab to delete or rename the repo. So now all what I can do is contributing to the repo or contributing to the pull requests. So I will try to create a file and see if I can. I'll try to create a file in the test branch. Let's try to create a file. I will name the file test.txt and typing anything testing and committing. I should have the permission to commit to the repo. So I'll click commit. It should commit now. So okay, it has committed and pushed the test file. So all of the permissions now I have is contributing to the repo. I can't delete the repo. I can't create a branch. I can't rename the repo. I have a lower permissions. So what I can do is only contributing to the repo. Okay, so that is for the repo permissions. But there is also another security features that we can use in case of Azure Repos. If I click here again in the Manage Repositories, there is something called here the repos policies. We can apply policies to our repo. Like for example, file path validation. Here we can block the pushing to the repos in a specific path. So for example, here when I applied the file path validation policy, if I try to push anything inside the Helm chart folder, it should block me. So let's try here inside the Helm chart folder to create any file, for example test, and write anything and commit. If I try to commit now, it should block me because we applied the file path validation for the Helm chart folder. Try to commit. And now it tells me the push was rejected because one or more commits add a file path which matches the policy. So now the policy blocked me from pushing to this path. Okay. And there is also another policies. Like for example, the case enforcement policy. This policy will block your pushes if you try to change the name casing on files, folders, or branches or tags. And there is the reserved names policy. This will block the pushes that introduce files or folders or branch names that include platform reserved names. Like for example, if we click on the documentation, that is the file names restrictions in Windows. If I try to push files with these names, it will block me. And in Linux, if I try to push file names that end with a slash, it will block me. Okay, and there is maximum path length. This will block the push that introduce paths that exceed a specified length. So if I click on, now I can choose the maximum path length. So I can block the pushes that introduce files that has a path that is more than this length. Okay, and there is also maximum file size. This will block the push that contains a new or updated files that is larger than this size. Okay, and there is also a branch policies. This branch policies is applied for all the repos. If I click here, I can protect the default branch for each repo, so no one can push to the default branch in each repo without pull request and merging. So that will protect the default branch for all the repositories. And there is a branch policies for each repo. If I choose now our front-end app repo and click on policies in, for example, the main branch, I can make branch policies for a specified branch in a repo. And now I can, for example, here in the branch policies, I can require a minimum number of reviewers for a pull request. So if I click on here, I can specify a number of reviewers that should review the pull request before the pull request can be completed. So that is a branch policy for the main branch. And here I can allow the requester to approve their wanted changes. So that's a minimum number of reviewers. And I can limit the merge types. So I can allow some merge types and deny some merge types. And here, that is automatically included reviewers policy. Here, if I click add, I can automatically add a user that must review the pull request before it can be completed. So now this specified reviewer, Osama Al-Said, must review the pull request so it can be completed. So now we have minimum number of reviewers 2 and Osama Said must review. So you can make a minimum number of reviewers and we can choose some specific reviewers that must review so the pull request be completed. Okay, so now let's try a demo and make a pull request from the test branch to the main branch. So now I will click on the pull requests here and create a new pull request from the test to the main branch and name it testing branch policies. Okay, and now I will not choose any reviewer, but automatically it will include the user Osama Said to be a reviewer. And I will click create. So automatically here, Osama Said is a required reviewer and he must approve so the pull request be completed. So now I will approve with my user, which is Muhammad. Click approve. So Muhammad Osama approved, but we still need Osama Said to approve. Osama Said user must approve because we added it in the branch policies. So I will return to Osama Said user and approve. I will click on pull requests, click on the testing branch policies. So here it's assigned to me. And now I will approve. So now after I approved with the user Osama Said, it says here the required reviewers have approved and I can now complete the pull request. I can click on complete to complete the merge. So now the pull request has completed after two reviewers have approved. One is Muhammad Osama and one that is required, which is Osama Said. So there is one required and one can be anyone. So that is because of our policy. Okay, so we have discussed in this lecture the security permissions for the repos and the branch policies that we can apply for all the repos or for a specific branch in a repo, like the file path validation and the case sensitivity policy and the file named validation and the path length validation and the file size validation. So we can use all these policies depending on our need. So that was the end of our lecture and of our Azure DevOps course. It was the last lecture in the course. It has been a long journey in the course. You have learned the classic pipelines and deployed a .NET Core application using release pipelines to different platforms, to the Kubernetes cluster, AKS cluster, Container App Service, and the Azure App Service, and also in an IIS web server. We have learned the YAML pipelines and learned all the features in the pipelines, the caching, the looping, the conditioning in the YAML pipelines, the environments, and deployed to the AKS cluster using the environments. And then we go through the build agents and create a build agent on a Windows VM, on a Docker container, on a Kubernetes cluster, and use the Kida operator for the auto scaling of the pipelines agents on Kubernetes. And then after it, we have go through the security permissions in Azure DevOps. We have go through like the pipelines permissions, the release permissions, the environment permissions, variable groups permissions, and the repo permissions and policies. I also want to remind you that here in the shopping front app repo, all the pipelines that we have written together, the YAML pipelines, is inside this folder, the YAML pipelines folder. This project is a public project. You can all access it and see the repo and see the YAML pipelines files and see the .NET Core application and see the Helm chart. Here the Helm chart folder. And here the build agent files. It has the deployment file for the pipelines agent, the YAML file for Kubernetes, the skill job file for Kida and the secret we used, and that's the Docker file that we have used to build the pipeline agent Docker image. And here the Docker file of the shopping front end app, the .NET Core app. So that's everything. I'm happy to be part of your journey in learning Azure DevOps. I hope you all learned and mastered Azure DevOps and I hope you enjoyed listening to the course. Thank you and goodbye everyone.